Hello everybody, welcome back to Vector Lab. Today we are talking about how we can do AI-powered call center analytics and how we can take call transcripts to insights based on AI. Today we have Anton and Sam with us, so can you guys introduce yourself and your role?
Sure. Hey, my name is Anton. I'm a senior solution engineer at Databricks, part of the financial services vertical in the UK business.
And Samantha?
Hi everyone. So I'm Sam. I'm a senior specialist solutions engineer, and my specialization is in machine learning and AI. So I work closely with organizations to help them harness the power of machine learning, data science, AI, and ensure that they're building robust and scalable real-world solutions.
Excellent, thank you. So can we frame a little bit the challenges that we're facing today on the call center side of things? So what is happening? What is the problem, the challenge we're facing?
Yeah, sure. There are a number of challenges and could probably break them into like external and internal. But to start with, the fact is that there are call centers in most of organizations, millions of calls every year, so vast amount of data, vast amount of recordings, and all lying in different systems, mostly underused, and it is slow and hard, costly to extract those information. I'm not gonna specify any specific reports, but if you do a quick internet search, you'll see that obviously these call trends are rising, the volume of calls is increasing every year, while majority of calls are remaining unanalyzed. And then there's lots of external pressures from the regulators. If you think about US Telephone Consumer Protection Act, or in the UK, the Financial Authority for Financial Services specifically, there is consumer duty that is expecting certain principles to be followed from financial services. And then internally, obviously, same number of call handlers, tight budgets, expectancy for the customer service to remain high, while actually there is more and more pressure for larger efficiencies, more automation. So it's really coming from all directions. And that's where me and Sam went out to set out this challenge and change that with Databricks solution that we're gonna talk about today.
What is this about then? What is the call center analytics solution you built and what is the user we are mainly targeting?
Yeah, so overall, it's a solution accelerator we developed that leverages pre-built AI functions that were released on Databricks earlier this year, and then the unified governance Databricks brings to make sure that we can extract those insights much faster and at scale without infrastructure and model endpoint management overhead. So massively simplifies and streamlines that time to value. Now, to your question, who is this relevant for and why they should care about? I've got a couple of slides I can bring up, which is going to just help to paint the picture and then show how this looks like in the actual solution and the dashboard. So first thing first, the chief data officer, they care about how can they scale AI securely in governed control, which when you have disparate tools across the system, one for recording the calls, one for storing, one for processing, one for surfacing business intelligence, it makes it hard to govern the systems and know who's got access to what, while most of the time there is a lot of sensitive information involved. So what this solution accelerator does is it unifies the entire end-to-end pipeline process, as I mentioned, the AI functions we mentioned earlier, and brings it to life. So if we were to look at the end-to-end flow, it's really around operational system on the organizational side, where a call handler finishes the call. Let's say the call gets stored in specific cloud storage. And then what our solution does is ingest those call recordings, transcribes them to make them ready for analysis, and then being able to present them and visualizing them for various personas, whether that's for management purposes or individual call handlers. So that's very on a high level on a technology side. But now you've got other people in the organization. If we are talking, for example, about insurance, their chief claims office is going to be concerned around, are we resolving those challenges fast? Or are we missing any opportunities for fraudulent transactions potentially? So the fact that we can summarize those calls, classify, see that there are any fraud signals going through, it allows both chief claims officer and the claims office to detect those much faster. So looking at the dashboard, we call this management view. Just a quick walkthrough. You can set out specific date range when you want to examine those calls, what's the trend across specific date range, how many calls there are. For example, here we see a spike, what is it for? Someone could go and explore. But talking about the claims officer specifically, in this given period, we identified that there were 5 fraudulent call attempts, and it breaks them down. When exactly did they happen? Which agents were on those calls? What actually happened? So it gives ability to then dig deeper and investigate why this happened, how can this be remediated. And if you look at the bar, we say, okay, on this specific day, these calls happen and can explore them further. So that's one for the claims office. And obviously, this is all powered by AI functions that Sam is gonna walk you through in a little bit more detail later. Now, moving to the compliance office, I mentioned earlier some of the regulations that are on the rise or already in place and the guidelines that are set out specifically around how are we treating customers fairly, how are we providing the right standard, and then are we making sure we are keeping secure those sensitive information. So those AI functions allow us to redact sensitive information like personal names or locations. So what you see here, it says that this specific entity has been masked. So when this dashboard is shared across organization, we are making sure that no sensitive information is shared. But then we can capture individual calls where, for example, we've identified that the customer is experiencing some financial hardship due to, say, like income loss or income reduction, about proving to regulators that we are identifying those cases and we are able to actually address those concerns appropriately. Now, moving on to the actual call center manager. They've got large teams and it's all around how can they coach, how can they scale their team, prevent agent burnout while able to monitor and make use of those insights. So what they can see is obviously satisfaction. Our agents making sure that we are keeping customers happy, or are there any negative experiences, and then being able to dig deeper into those. Maybe why is Agent 4 only doing a couple of calls a day, or why is Agent 5 so long on the calls? It's all the metrics that managers can go and dig in and understand what kind of coaching or training might be further required for those agents to help them perform better. And also seeing just overall, what kind of topics are happening to further inform the business. If there is a lot of technical support required, how can we work closer with technical support and so on. And then, of course, the call handlers themselves. A lot of admin on their side, a lot of note taking, summarizing what happened. While there is increasing demand for those customers to understand what was discussed, some summaries, key actions, what are next steps. And this is something that the agent dashboard part of the solution helps to address, where individual agents, in this case, let's say we are agent 2, and we see all the calls that we've taken place over a given period of time. What's been the satisfaction? If you want to dig, okay, why is there mixed response? What are these specific calls about? When did they take place? Who was it with? Specific policy numbers, just allowing you to dig deeper and make more.
Just clarifying here, an agent is a person, right? It's a call handler.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, it's an actual call handler. That's right, rather than a AI agent. Thank you. So these are like some of the top level metrics that we can surface. And then by people who are building this, we wanted to make this as simple as possible. I mentioned these pre-built AI functions that we leveraged in this solution. So rather than data or ML engineers building those solutions, having to stitch together multiple systems for machine learning, engineering, processing, BI, Databricks as one platform allows you to do everything in one place while avoiding to having to worry about provisioning compute, because all this is serverless. And then also no need to manage specific endpoints. And with this unified architecture, it's then also easier to control who's got access to what kind of data, which queries, etc.
So is the solution using AI functions for also kind of pre-processing the data, or only for at the end of the goal layer, let's say, to classify or summarize? Or
yeah, no, it's a really good question. I'll actually let Sam dig into a little bit more how the whole flow works, but it's essentially these specific functions are essentially used on both sides, but mostly on the post-processing to make sure these insights are extracted in the best possible way. And that actually brings me to the end of these personas. So this is just like on a high level how a lot of people in the organization, whether that's the claims office or compliance office or data office or engineers, can benefit from a bunch of these features and technology that we've used as part of the solution accelerator.
I love how this shows like all the art of the possible by having like a super tailored demos to different personas and showing what we can do to answer like because there's so many things you can do now with AI models. Sometimes it's all about having the creativity and the subject matter expertise to know exactly like what are the best questions that you need to answer. So I love that there's this work done of, looking at what questions do we want to answer and which personas does it target. Really cool.
Thanks.
So Sam, should we go through a demo?
Yeah, amazing. So yeah, thanks Anton for giving an overview. And now I will be giving a flavor of what the actual solution accelerator entails. So just give me a second to share my screen. Right, so this is available on our Databricks blog post repo and has a detailed information of what this actually represents. We have two versions. So one is containing simulated data just to be able to show what the dashboards could look like with a population of call center data. And then there's an actual version which just has some bare bones example audio files. But this is handling everything from the ingestion of our raw audio files, doing the processing, and then giving an idea of how you're able to build your front-end dashboards. So diving into what those actually look like. So starting off with the bronze layer, we assume that we've got the audio files that are landing in volumes in a Unity catalog. And then basically what's happening in this layer is being able to create a files reference data frame, and as well being able to understand like what's the duration of these audio files. And
Why is the file reference required? Oh, for this step.
Yeah, so file reference is just being able to understand. So when you're rerunning your pipeline, making sure that you're able to check against what are the existing files that have been processed already, so that we are not creating any duplicate efforts whenever new files land into the system. So the silver layer is now part of converting these audio files into transcriptions. And over here, we're using the OpenAI Whisper model.
Nice.
But it can be completely flexible what sort of audio transcription or audio to text file that you want.
Here that we're converting audio to text, like we're transcribing, because this is less expensive, especially at scale, because sometimes people ask, why should I transcribe? Can't I just like chuck the audio to a model?
Yeah. So just being able to, I think for the sake of efficiency and cost purposes, and there can be a lot of transformations that you'd want to be able to do with the actual text as well. So we mentioned earlier about whether AI functions is being applied on the actual transcriptions. I believe multimodal support for AI functions is going to be made available, but for now, we'll dig in deeper to what the AI functions purposes is in the solution accelerator. So we're converting our raw audio into MP3 files. We're calculating the duration of those. And then here is where we are transcribing the audio with Whisper. So this is done in...
Is that duration required for some reason on the pre-processing side, or it's just for depicting it in the dashboard at the end?
So depicting it in the dashboard. There could be some sort of check. So for example, if there are any sort of constraints and like processing constraints, if the files are too big or too short to be able to extract any insights. So those are checks that we could further implement. And then we have a resulting silver layer over here, which basically has the file path, file name, the transcriptions, audio duration, who is the caller ID, agent ID, and then the dates and time of the call. And as we said in this, the way that we've laid out this solution accelerator is keeping track of what files have been processed, so that if new files land in the same volume location, is that there won't be any repeat process.
Sounds good.
Then moving on to our final layer, the gold layer. So this is what is actually going to populate the front-end dashboard. And this is where we're really leveraging AI functions. So there's a lot of different capabilities that it's able to tackle over here. So for now, one of the use cases that we have is using the conversations from the call centers to be able to generate any follow-up emails. So if there are any follow-up actions, rather than the agent having to manually look through their notes and create emails from there, we should be able to extract out specific entities from the transcriptions to be able to generate those emails. So that's the beauty of using AI queries, that there's a lot of flexibility in terms of, what sort of prompt that you want to inject and being able to apply that in a batch format.
Maybe explain a little bit like the structured output definition that you have built here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so over here as well, we are implementing a structured output. So as we all know, when we call upon LLMs, that sometimes, even though we specify what sort of output that we want, they can be a bit creative in what sort of responses that they want to give. So incorporating a response format parameter when we're calling upon AI query ensures that we are getting a specified JSON schema. And then from there, it just gives that consistency and ease of any sort of like downstream applications. So over here, for example, when we're creating our follow-up email, we're wanting to specify that we want to be able to have a subject, a certain greeting, a call summary, next steps, contact information, closing, and so on. And then we'll see later down the line what that looks like in our resulting table. So, to touch upon, so AI functions is basically being able to do batch inference using LLMs at scale. It's completely provisionless, so you don't have to worry about the infrastructure, and it's a really fast and performant way of being able to leverage LLMs on our in a batch format. So the type of AI functions that we're using here, we've got capabilities including analyzing sentiment, being able to summarize, classification, extracting specific named entities, and then of course we've got our most flexible option, AI query, and it's just as easy as being able to specify an endpoint name, what your prompt is, and then if you want to specify, you want to format your responses to a specific schema, that's how that's done over here. And then we have as well also a way of masking. So if you want to redact any confidential information, the AI functions are intelligent enough to be able to understand which part of those texts include either a person's name, address, and so on.
So sorry, Sam, if you go back to that cell, so this cell in these 10 lines of code, I would say, is all your feature engineering, really, right? So all the outputs that you need from the dashboard are done in this cell, which is magic.
Yeah, that's it. What previously might have taken lines and lines of different functions and different code.
Different models, tuned for a specific thing. Very nice.
100%. Yeah. Yay, innovation.
Yeah.
So and then of course we've got the same columns that we had before, but now you can see we've got our sentiment over here, summaries, classification. We've got our named entity recognition, which is done in a dictionary. And then what we were alluding to earlier is that now when we have our follow-up email templates, that we've got them all conforming to a consistent format, which can be used for downstream applications. And then looking at AI Mask, you can see that we've got the features that we were wanting to redact before, which included names and addresses, and that's been applied over here.
The email creation, does it take the features from the information extraction step to form it?
So that, I believe, is a separate application, but that is something that could be done. So perhaps if it's a case of that could be something that could be like a linked flow. But I think for now we keep it separate. And then there's just some final cleanup, and then that essentially creates our output table. So and then we've got our resulting dashboard that Antoinette showed before.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Right? Really simple.
Thank you.
And so, Lara, you have a question to ask.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how customizable is this accelerator? Like, can people bring their own models or integrate with existing tools if they want to leverage this?
Yeah, so for the models, can be it's very easy, especially when it comes to the AI functions. You know, if there's an endpoint that's created within Databricks, they'll just be able to point it there. So we've got our natively hosted models, foundation APIs. We've also got access to external models. So it's super flexible in that respect. And then, in terms of, where it's a sort of, a complete solution. So all it is that you're bringing in your audio files, and then the sort of flexibilities of how you want to structure what sort of different transformations that you want to make to those transcriptions. It's totally up to you.
Yeah, I would really advise to go to the AI query page and see all the different AI stuff that are there out of the box, because there are many things that you can do just out of the box, right? Like the AI mask or the AI sentiment. So people can start using the solution just by cloning the repo. The repo is public. And you
Yes.
also have a link to the blog, so for people to read that. Okay, amazing. Thanks.
Exactly. I guess like another exciting point to mention is like now, especially with MLflow 3.0's announcement. So, this is sort of like a first stab of like being able to generate transcriptions, and then but then if you're wanting to evaluate the accuracy of those transcriptions, MLflow 3.0 is a perfect framework in order to be able to do that. And, it's got a very robust way of being able to perform evaluations. And then if you're wanting to do further, especially when it comes to setting up those emails, wanting it to have a certain tone or a certain structure to it, then MLflow 3.0 is the perfect framework in order to ensure those qualities.
Then you can add some judges or some custom metrics that you can evaluate your outputs on using MLflow 3. This is the MLflow Evaluate framework.
Yes.
Is there any way to track, though, and iterate on the prompt version?
Absolutely. So one of the features of MLflow 3.0 is that we've got a prompt versioning and tracking. So when you're creating a specific experiment on MLflow 3.0, you are able to track which prompt is being used for that experiment. And then if you're wanting to run a new experiment with a new prompt, that all gets versioned. So you're able to see the differences between those prompts. And one of the capabilities that come within it is being able to optimize your prompt according to the DSPy framework. Those are options that you can consider as well.
Link this. So in this code that you showed, the only thing that needs to happen is really start an MLflow experiment at this point.
Exactly. That's it. It's like wrapping it around an MLflow experiment. So when it comes to actually developing this into a proper product that you're going to be productionizing, then I would highly encourage wrapping it around an MLflow experiment, going through the phase of development and testing with that.
Cool. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for the
guys.
opportunity.
Thank you.